process. So we want to get your input tonight so that we have any final comments before we finalize that plan and include it in the grant application. Quick reminder of some of the existing conditions at Franklin Middle School. You have the lower level down here where you have your existing sports fields and a large dirt area with a path that goes around. And then in the upper area of the site, you have a theater type auditorium, which will become the theater. We have some portable classrooms in here, a gymnasium with basketball, and an auditorium and kitchen over here. And the right side of the site will be reserved for the school district offices. So jumping into the preferred plan, this is Plan 1A. So the upper levels of both of the plans that we're going to show you are the same. So we'll start with that. On the upper level, we have the theater here, and we have the existing gymnasium and the multi-purpose room and kitchen. So the plan is to include an additional gym, and in that gym, we would have basketball, volleyball, and pickleball. The other thing we'd like to add that we're including in the plan is a covered futsal court. So this is not a full-on building, but it has an overhead awning to protect you from the sun and the weather. And then you would have futsal courts underneath. And then in between the buildings, you would have some outdoor courts, most likely basketball and other types of sports. And then we have some pedestrian zones around the buildings to connect the spaces, make it more friendly so you have more of the flow between the inside of the building and the outside of the building with some pedestrian seating areas, landscape, and a promenade connecting the areas. So this is like a pedestrian pathway going vertically and horizontally. So this connects people to the different levels and to the different buildings. And this is meant to be very pedestrianized so that you have plants and lights and maybe you have flagpoles, special paving, but something that really feels like you're on a path. And then down here, we'd be adding parking as well as on the lower level. So getting cars off the street and onto the site. Moving down to the lower level. So this is where you have your existing natural turf fields today. We would be adding a synthetic field here. So this would be a fenced synthetic field to protect it. And we would have different uses on this field, including soccer, perhaps lacrosse, and maybe flag football. And then outside of that synthetic field, we would still have the natural turf, which would be a little bit more flexible. So you could have some mid-sized soccer fields. And then you see in this lighter print in here, you have some smaller soccer fields overlaid. So you can see that you can fit quite a few little guys in there. And then you can also use these for just practice. And then just a reminder that we have the restroom concessions building that would remain here in the center. And we would be adding concessions, picnic, that type of outdoor seating around this area. And perhaps one of the comments that came up at our last meeting is that people would like to see some type of play feature. So we added that in here, and we're going to show you some imagery of that in a couple of slides. So next slide, it's barely noticeable, but it changes a little bit. Is just this all stayed the same pretty much. The only thing that changed is we showed some different striping, which added softball, a baseball overlay. So you can see you can just do different things with this flexible natural turf area by arranging things a little bit differently. So looking at the lower level first, some images. This is just an image of a natural grass area that can be flexible for just gathering or for practicing. And then this is a more formal natural turf area for softball and baseball. This is an example of what a synthetic field might look like, a fenced synthetic field. And then in the lower row here, we have some different picnic options, a shaded picnic area with hardscape paving, or a more open picnic area without the shade canopy and a softer decomposed granite surface there. Here's an example of what a play feature could be, but we have lots of options for play features. So this is just one idea for a smaller space. And then we also have a walking loop, which I forgot to mention. So let me just go back real quick. This dashed line that goes around the fields on the bottom, that would all be a walking loop. So that as kids are practicing, the parents can be walking around the fields. So that's the lower level. Now looking at the upper level, this is focused a little bit more on the buildings so that you can see how the uses inside the buildings relate to the exterior spaces. So if you look down there to the left, that would be your lower area. This would be a ramp coming up. And this is your covered futsal court. Oh, okay, sorry, I wanted to see one quick thing. Okay, sorry for jumping ahead. So this would be your covered futsal court here. This is your additional gym in here that we looked at. This is the existing gym. So this is where basketball is played today. Right now you have male locker rooms and female locker rooms. I'm not sure if that's the right order, but what we're thinking is that we could make these more gender neutral spaces so that this could be an open weight room with some more private restrooms off to the sides. And then this side could be a public locker area, kind of like you would see at an amusement park. So you're going to your locker, but you're not changing in the locker room. You're going into private rooms to change.
Gina?
Yeah.
Could you turn on the pointer feature? We can't see your
oh, thank you. Yes, good point. That would be, is that under annotate?
And Gina, while you're turning on the pointer feature, I can, this is Mike Scott, the architect on the team. Just wanted to chime in on some of the buildings. You'll notice the benefit of each of these different buildings is you have the large gymnasium, and then it's got its support spaces with the locker room and what we see an opportunity for the weight room. Then you have the large multi-purpose room in the next building that has the adjacent kitchen. So the different functions where food could be associated with the use of large indoor and outdoor seating spaces. And then down at the bottom, you have the auditorium where with a stage and auditorium for performances. And then adjacent to that, those large gray colored rooms are large music room spaces. And then around those, you'll see a number of brown storage rooms and yellow office spaces that will support each of these different buildings. Each of those buildings has a certain amount of those. So as we're looking at those, we are looking at the entry points for each of those spaces, and those are signified by the yellow, little yellow star or asterisk, and looking at using possible covered awnings around those entry points to allow people to pass from building to building under the rain or under cover. So these are all the spaces that are current to the existing buildings. So looking at very cost effectively being able to use what is there that provides you a lot of flexibility. Doesn't say as the project goes on, there'll be possibilities of doing some interior modifications, but there's a lot of great things to work with here.
Thank you, Mike. And taking a look at what some of those interior spaces might look like. So this could be an event space that would be in your multi-purpose room. And then you have a kitchen in there already, so we're not looking at reconfiguring that, but just maybe upgrading some of the finishes and improving uses. To the right of that is what a classroom could look like, a flexible type classroom, and that might be in the Performing Arts Center. And then looking at a theater, you actually do have a stage in the theater now, so a little bit different from this space, but just looking at that type of use there. And then in the existing gym, as well as the new gym, you would have basketball, pickleball, and volleyball. So then looking at some of those exterior spaces on the upper level, one of the ideas that Mike and I would like to really look into is dressing up the facades of those buildings. Right now, they're just a little bit blocky, but we feel like you could, with some minimal effort, you could really dress them up with some paint, maybe putting on some building awnings and popping out the facades a little bit. and really bringing those pedestrian spaces in and out of the building here. So you see this plaza here in front of this multi-purpose building. And then that promenade that we talked about connecting the building spaces as well as the lower level could be something that has some vertical elements like trees or flagpoles and some special paving and planting areas. And then another thing that would be nice is to have some wayfinding signage on the site. It's a fairly big complex, so some directional signage that goes with the design would also be helpful. Looking at bringing some of those interior uses like Mike was talking about in the multi-purpose room out into the outdoor plaza areas, you can do that pretty easily by adding some more glass facades and putting out some outdoor tables and having a little bit more hardscape that ties into the buildings. This is an example what that futsal court could look like. So you see the covered awnings here, and underneath you see the courts. So this is actually 2, and I believe that's what we are showing in the plan as well. Is that right, Yuki? We're showing this size. And then some outdoor basketball courts like we've talked about. And then again, just another example of an outdoor gathering space. So you can actually hold events in these plazas in between the buildings. So that is the Franklin Sports Preferred Plan at this point. So we'd like to stop and get your feedback on what we've shown you so far. I know it's a lot to digest, so feel free to have us back it up and explain things, and we can kind of toggle back and forth between the slides. So Yuki, do you want to go ahead and take the screen from here?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, if you can go onto slido.com. If you've been to one of these workshops, you might be familiar by now, but if you type in slido.com on a web browser, or you can pull out your phone, your smartphone camera works just fine. If you put it against the QR code, it should give a pop-up, and it'll also lead you to this exact event. Once you reach slido.com, you can type in GVRD03 and it should lead you to a landing page. And in a moment, I will begin the poll.
We also have a comment too that someone definitely appreciates the baseball field at the site. So.
We also have a raised hand, Yuki. I can pull that up. Let's see. Okay, Carol Bishop.
Yes, I had a question.
Yes.
How do you get to the slido.com again? I'm on my smartphone.
Okay. So if you pull up a camera on your, what type of phone do you have?
iPhone.
Oh, great. Okay, so pull up the camera on your iPhone.
Uh-huh.
And then just hold it up to that QR code on the screen.
Okay, no, I can't pull up my camera because I'm on
Right.
I'm on my phone.
If you're, Carol, if you're on your smartphone for this meeting, you might have to switch over just briefly, but you can come back. So you can open Safari or any web browser and then just type in slido.com, SLIDO.com.
Okay, so just go to my web browser and then type that in.
Yeah, and then it'll ask for an event code, which is GVRD03.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try that. Safari.
Yeah, let us know if you can get on.
I can't get on Safari without getting off of Zoom.
Mm.
Do you have a separate device that you can log on to briefly?
Let me go. No, because I can't. I don't think I have Zoom on my computer.
Can you log onto Slido on your computer?
Maybe I could do that. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh, great. Okay.
That sounds good.
Yeah, plus I just want to add, that's a really good idea to put the softball, baseball field on slide 2.
Okay.
Okay, while we have people accessing, I'm going to start kind of reading through, looking at what people are saying about this first question, which is what aspects of the concept for Franklin Sports Complex do you like? So out of the two, or out of the concept plan that we have shown, is there anything that you definitely want to keep, definitely really like about it? And it looks like a lot of people are really liking the soccer fields. A number of the people have said all of it, which is great to hear. Softball, baseball field, the way that it's multi-use for the fields, the futsal courts, and there's some other answers about the extra gym space, the locker space, the sports fields and theater, the sports dedicated venue, the walking path. Yeah, there's a lot about having variety and having field options.
Great. We're up to 18 responses. So I think.
I'm sorry. Where it says enter the code, do I put number sign and then GVRD?
No, you don't need the number sign, just GVRD03 is fine.
Thank you.
That's a good question. I've always wondered that too.
We'll give just a couple more minutes.
I just saw number 19. Was that you, Carol?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, good. All right.
Awesome.
I think that's everyone.
Great. That's a good word cloud.
Yeah.
Okay, I will move on to the next question. The next one I've made into an open text poll. So is there anything that is missing from the concept plan, and what else would you want to see at the Franklin Sports Complex?
Yuki, is there a way to scroll down so that we can continue seeing the
Sure.
comments?
I can scroll through it.
Okay.
So more baseball, batting cages, dog park, bleachers, dog walking area, dog friendly space. No to dog space. Okay. Walking or running path. So we have a walking path going around the fields on the lower level of the site. Play structure for kids, outdoor pickleball. With COVID, I think a lot of older folks would prefer to be outside. Batting cages, shade. If dog space, completely separate from the fields. No pet area. Playground. Please install Greenfield's outdoor fitness equipment that can be used by the public at any time. This has been recently implemented in American Canyons Wetlands Edge Park.
Oh yeah, we worked on that project.
Thank you for the link.
I know. Are you a rep for Greenfields?
Consideration for hosting large youth sports events with spectators. Water stations, bocce court, fitness area, gated dog space, more pickleball, fitness equipment. Area for inclusive play. First aid stations, And after this, we can have some time to kind of dive into, or if you want to elaborate on your shortened answers here, then we can do that. Racquetball courts, covered or indoor bocce.
Lots of good ideas. And we're recording these comments, so we'll have a record of all of this.
Emphasizes baseball, softball cages. Yes to bocce. I think that's mostly everybody. Anybody else want to add here?
Yes, one more.
Sure. Restrooms other than the gym, skate park area.
Are people just allowed to do one answer, Yuki, or can you answer multiple times?
They can answer multiple times.
Okay,
Yeah, but the number is still 18. 18 people answering.
got it. Okay.
I see a couple questions in the Q&A. Will the fields be gated off after closing hours, or will they remain open to the public?
They will be closed, just like some of our other parks where we close the gates at night. We plan on closing the gates after hours in the evening, so that way people won't have like midnight games.
Yeah, the neighbors probably wouldn't like midnight games.
And then the other question was, will the lower part be dog friendly? So that's been kind of coming up in these answers as well about dog space.
And I think if people could clarify, do they want a dog park? Because we do have a leash law in all of our parks, except for the dog park. And we do have Blue Rock Springs where dogs are not allowed. So I think if people could, include that as well, whether they want a dog park. That's always important, not just for this project, but for other parks that we have as well. Because that's been something that we've been working on for over 10 years, is to figure out where to put a second dog park in Vallejo.
Carol, were you able to input your answers? Was that you?
Was,
Okay.
I'm-
I
Hello?
saw it coming in.
yes, thank you.
Was there a
Hello?
raised hand?
I did, but it didn't work. Can I say
Sure.
something about the dog parks?
Sure.
So on the first poll, actually dog parks, I think, was one of the leading one. And I see that it's not in here, but I know we're going back and forth about it. I live in this space, and the majority of people around here have dogs and want somewhere to put the dogs. So I don't mind dogs, like areas not having dogs, but if you're going to put no dogs, we also have Wilson Park where like a mile away, that doesn't allow dogs either. And so I think it'd be best, if we're not going to allow dogs, to at least put a dog gated area.
Yuki, do you want to maybe open up the Google Sheet so we can type some of these comments so we have record?
Sure.
Yeah. Dogs are allowed at Wilson Park on leash.
There's no, sorry, there's no dog signs all over Wilson Park.
I'll check that tomorrow. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. I mean, if they're only allowed in, I'm not talking about the fields or anything. I'm just talking about like a gated space for them to run. So then they're not on the fields.
We have another hand up. It's Leon. Does that capture your, sorry, before we move on, does that capture your comment? What Yuki has typed up on the screen there?
Yeah,
Great,
thank you.
sure. Leon, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and respond to the issue about a dog park in Wilson Park. And I noticed that there is a there's an area of grass that is south of Beach Street, or that walkway that comes out from Beach Street. Could that possibly be used as a gated dog park area? Because at that moment, that is basically not being used except as a shortcut to get between Cortola Parkway and Beach.
So we do have another project going on. It's that Wilson Park with a synthetic soccer field and all-inclusive playground. And I think that one's garnering a lot of feedback for having an area for dogs. And yeah, that's what we call no man's land all the way on the, it's the weird triangle. I will pass that along for the Wilson Park design. And yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Okay, much appreciated.
Do you want us to record that here, Gabe, or do you want to keep that as a separate note for Wilson? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
I'm typing that actually on my desktop.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we have some chats. Do you want me to read these to you so you can, let's see.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Definitely appreciate the baseball field at the site. Batting cages. That's an awesome park. Thank you. I'm someone who uses the American Canyon fitness set. I don't know if you have to type all these because we're going to have the record, but I don't think it hurts, that's for sure. I'm someone who uses the American Canyon fitness set and live very near Franklin. This helps alleviate the crowd at the AC place of people coming in from Vallejo. So it sounds like advocating for more fitness equipment in Vallejo. And then are they open all day? So Gabe answered that question.
Mhm.
Does anybody want to elaborate on any of these comments that they put in the chat? Or, oh, here's one more message. Is futsal popular enough to dedicate new courts compared to other activities? One of the things that we're trying to do is have multi-layers of sports on these fields and courts. So even if it's a covered court, I don't know that it would necessarily have to be futsal. You want to add anything to that, Gabe?
I know that for the grant, we get more points for a variety of activities on the site. If it's whether it's futsal, 2 courts for futsal or 1 larger court for synthetic soccer on a smaller scale as opposed to the large synthetic soccer, that's something you know, we can look at. And you know, we've got the 10-year master plan and we got data from that too. So we're trying to put as many amenities that for a variety of different activities. So yes and no, I guess. Futsal has been a very popular request for the past 5-6 years. So if we can accommodate it, we can. If it's just 1 soccer or smaller soccer field for 5-on-5, that's something as well that we'll look into.
I see Leon's hand up, but I think that might have been from your last comment, Leon. Is that true?
No, this is a new request.
Okay.
Okay, so when the Mare Island Sports Complex closed, there were a couple of things that were featured in that particular place that is not in the plan. And I think Gabe talked a little bit about choosing between a futsal or a smaller soccer area. Is there going to be a possibility that features from the old place will come into Franklin, such as batting cages or smaller soccer fields that are indoors?
So in regards to the batting cages, we are trying to figure out a location for batting cages. That we have separate funds from Measure K to try and develop those, whether it's at the Amador site or somewhere else throughout the city. And I'm sorry, your second question was the soccer, indoor soccer. Yeah, we really do want to put more indoor soccer. It's just hard to find. I mean, it was a luxury to have the Mare Island Sports Center, I'll tell you that. And to have that much space to do two soccer fields, but we'll try and figure out something. I mean, yeah, I know that's not the best answer, but right now it's kind of what I've got. Yeah, we still have the 4 pitching machines that we had from Mare Island. We actually purchased those. So we took those with us when we were asked to leave. So we plan on utilizing that. It's just, and we actually have some designs from RRM that they had down at Cal Poly for, I think it was a 3 or 4 batting cage site. So yeah, that's something that we've had a lot of people asking for, and we're just still trying to figure out where to put it.
We have one more comment in the chat. Could it be a multi-use outdoor court? And I think the answer to that is yes, that's definitely a possibility. They suggest futsal, tennis, pickleball. So yeah, I think that's something we will explore. Another comment, are any plans in the works for Richardson Park?
So at the GVRD website, it'll take, if you reimagine our parks, Richardson is also on the list. We actually have a meeting coming up for outreach on that, and we'll promote that pretty heavily in the newspaper and online regarding plans. Plans for Richardson Park is also soccer field, updating the ball field, playground, pump track, which is for bicycle racing or dirt bike racing, and some other amenities to really improve the site.
And then another comment, and then we have a raised hand as well. Batting cages at the Amador site.
So yeah, the baseball field, actually I'm in my office, so it's like literally 100 feet away from me. We're trying to figure out to put batting cages there because we want to have staff nearby in case we're trying to figure out if it's going to be a pay to use or if it's teams that want to use it, that way they don't have to keep dropping quarters to use the batting cages there, because there's usually someone at the main office. So if there is a problem, there's someone at hand.
And then Brendan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so this all looks great, by the way. It's very exciting. I hadn't heard of this project so far, and so I was curious to hear a little bit more about like what the big goal of the facility is, to sort of understand what in terms of what you guys are including, like what's the draw, what's the intention? Because I don't know, when you call it a sports complex, I feel like it's a great opportunity to I feel like the return on something like that would be to have the ability for teams in the area to host events there, which I think is somewhat covered in the fact that you'll have multiples of courts and multiples of fields. But I don't know, I feel like it would be smart to lean in a little bit on that, to make it a facility that's able to host an event, to have teams be able to do tournaments and fundraisers and have events there, so that like the community and the teams and everybody sees a return on this project. I wish I had more specifics, but I just thought it was worth bringing up.
Yeah, that's no problem. because another aspect of it too is, did we want to just focus in on like one particular sport and making it like up in Sacramento and stuff, they have like hard court palaces, which are just basically a whole bunch of basketball courts, not volleyball, but just specifically one sport. I think I said this, no, it was a previous meeting. We're kind of looking at amenities for Vallejoans. We want them to have a variety, because if you're, what we've found is, people will say, oh, just do one sport, and that way you can draw a whole bunch of tournament play. I don't know if Vallejo is really geared up for the hotel accommodations and everything else, and if at that site would be the best place to have like a full-on 20-team tournament play for soccer or some other sports. So again, we're looking more for Vallejoans and having maybe small tournaments, but it's hard to wedge a whole bunch of items into that site. I know that Solano 360 by the fairgrounds, they had proposed one time doing 6 or 7 baseball fields and having a whole bunch of volleyball. So just to really have a tournament location, which would be great because it's on 80 and it would be easy access for a lot of people. So I think with the size constraints and just with in trying to get this grant, we really want to put a lot of emphasis on things for Vallejoans to do. I hope that answers your question.
No, that's good. And yeah, and I definitely wasn't advocating for anything large scale in terms of tournaments or anything like that, but just having just enough to give teams the opportunity to really take advantage and make it good for them as well as the community would be, I think, a great idea.
Yeah, thank you.
We have a question about if the plan includes parking. So I will just switch back over to the plan real quick so we can show you where that is. Yuki, are you still sharing your screen?
I can stop sharing.
Okay, thank you.
There's also a question about dog park viability.
Lost my place.
The question was, does a dog park increase insurance liability?
It might, am I off? Yeah, it might increase claims, but our insurance, well, it's just like, if someone gets into multiple car accidents every year, your insurance goes up. So our insurance wouldn't go up just by having a dog park, but our insurance would go up if there's a lot of claims and a lot of injuries that happen at the dog park.
So the parking that we're currently showing in this plan is in yellow. So on the lower level, we have some parking shown here. And then on the upper level, we also have parking shown. Are there any comments related to the plan that I could clarify, Yuki?
Oh, there was a comment saying we cannot see the screen. I'm seeing the screen.
You are seeing it? Gabe, can you see the screen?
I can see the screen. It's
Is it the plan?
You might need to change your view format. Okay, I'm going to read some of the comments. Finding it very difficult to find open pickleball courts. I think it is more popular than futsal.
So we do have pickleball courts in the plan on the inside of the new gym. And then these outdoor courts could also potentially have pickleball. So we haven't gotten into the all the details of the design yet. We're still at a high level at this point. So we'll definitely take down that comment.
Another comment, I think a variety of sports activities that are mimicked at several locations would be great. And then another one, should be able to make some income off of facilities as well. Indoor soccer is very popular and a revenue generator. And then this is another question, will Richardson Park field be synthetic?
Yes, that's the design. We want to have a synthetic field for Richardson. For soccer, the baseball will still be grass.
PAL Soccer currently uses the space from April to October, 4 to 5 days a week. Can you elaborate on how these changes will potentially impact our current program? I missed the last meeting, so I apologize if you've already spoken on this.
No, we will work with PAL. I'm not on mute. We're working with PAL. We had a meeting with them a couple months back. We're working with the school district because they do own the site. And we do plan on having PAL continuing their programming and working with us to keep that going.
There's a question about the grant. Once you apply for the grant, if you get it, how much can you revise the plan at the point after it is awarded?
There's still lots of room for development of the plan once the grant is awarded. So yeah, it's just the initial input phase. I imagine we couldn't completely change it to be like totally different uses, but definitely make some modifications.
Okay, I don't see any raised hands.
I think we have someone in the waiting room. Do you see that, Yuki?
I think I let them in.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it disappeared. Oh, will the staircase between the upper and lower sections still be there?
Yes, that's a really good question. So we would improve that connection between the lower level and upper level. Right now, it's like a sloping path that's not ADA compliant. So it would be an ADA compliant ramp, and then there would be a set of stairs as well.
How soon will the current spaces be available?
So we are right now currently negotiating with the school district. Our attorney has provided some feedback to them, and it's kind of the back and forth. So hopefully it goes quickly. I don't think there's any sticking points to cancel it, but we hope to be, let's say, best case scenario with everything that gets signed. It has to go to their board and our board. Hopefully by summertime, we can start moving in there and starting to improve the interior facilities and the gym. And, you know, if they, let's say they say June 1st, then we would start to mow and upgrade the irrigation and do some other things with GVRD's money, whether or not we get the Prop 68 funding.
Any more questions or comments on Franklin before we move to the plunge?
VCUSD available for intramural and interscholastic. I'm not sure if that's a question.
The school district will still be able to reserve fields and do other things too. They'll have a priority, but they won't have the priority to kick people off the field if it's already reserved. But yeah, they'll still be able to have host events and sports there too. So we've got PAL, VCUSD, and GVRD. GVRD will be the one kind of managing everything.
All right, and then
Lighting.
last one, will there be lighting?
Pathway lighting for nighttime. but the fields will not have any lights because the grant doesn't allow for that. If we were to do lighting, that would be probably years down the road where GVRD would have to do that at our expense. All right.
Okay. Moving on to the plunge. So I am gonna have to go here. I'm gonna scroll through a couple of these slides. All right, so we're going on a parallel time frame with this project. So same process in the grant application. For those of you who have not attended the previous meetings, this site is across the street from the high school, and it's been decommissioned for a number of years. And this project is to bring that Bregan Aquatic Center back to the site. So quick look at the existing conditions. You have the decommissioned pool here and the building wrapping around it and the existing parking lot all on Nebraska Street. The idea of this project is to expand the envelope, as you see in this dashed yellow line. So we would be keeping the existing parking lot and then moving into this area of the site and not actually using the existing pool and building because it just has so many code issues that it would be more difficult to renovate than to just start over. So this is the preferred plan diagrammatically that we have laid out for the site. This is the existing parking today. So we would take that parking and expand into this area wrapping around. And then we'd have a completely new building, roughly about 10,000 square feet, which would include locker rooms, restrooms, and concessions. And then we would have a competition level pool here. With this purple area is the pool deck surrounding the pool. And then wrapping around the competition pool, we would have a family aquatics area. So there are several different colors in this. I'll just run through them fairly quickly. Up here, this gray area is an exterior locker area. And then these yellow bubbles down here would be shaded reservable picnic areas. This could be some type of plaza area where you might have water features shooting out of the concrete. So as you're enjoying your picnic here, you might have some entertainment or have your kids running back and forth there. And then this is the heart of the family aquatics area. So we're sort of showing two different blue bubbles here, and that might indicate a more vertical feature here that's for older kids, and maybe you have a smaller tot area right over here. And then wrapping around that entire area is this green area. So we're envisioning this to be something where family members could hang out, bring their towels or chairs, and maybe you have some shaded umbrellas. So going into what some of those areas could look like. So you might have the picnic areas lined up as you see in this top picture in the middle. And then you might have some softer gathering areas, and that might be what that green space looks like around the family aquatics area there. And then just some different options for water features. You have, like I was talking about, those fountains shooting out of the concrete. That could be fun in a plaza area. And then some of these more vertical features would be the heart of the family aquatics area. Here's a more intricate option here. And then once again, you have some more vertical options. So just some different ideas of concepts that what you can do at an aquatic center, just to get the juices flowing. And then we're gonna get your feedback on that plan. So going again into a Slido poll, if you could get your devices ready again, then Yuki will run us through that again. So I'm gonna stop sharing, Yuki. Oh, you're muted. I'm sorry. I didn't see that sooner.
So if you have your device or window still open, please go back to it. It's the same Slido event. I'll be pushing the plunge questions now. Okay, first question, very similar to the first part of this meeting. What aspects of the concept for the plunge do you like? So out of that plan that we just showed, what aspects of it do you like? So multiple people answering shaded areas, the locker rooms, more space, competition pool, family centered, lots of fun activities, splash playground, reservable picnic areas, family space.
We do have a question. What will happen to the old plunge, the pool and the building?
The building, that's up to the school district. It was going to be very cost prohibitive for us to actually utilize that and upgrade it seismically, with the electrical, with the plumbing, with you name it, it needs it, even ADA. So that's why it's weird to say it's cheaper to build new buildings up to code than it is to fix what was existing. In the pool, there's been ideas of turning that into a skate park, or filling it in, making it beach volleyball, I think was one item, or just making it a patio to have events, but then again, the building can't be utilized. So I think that's going to have to be up to the school district.
I'm just going to go quickly over the instructions on getting onto Slido again, just in case people missed it or closed their windows. So you can just open a web browser, Safari, Chrome, anything. Just type in slido.com, SLIDO.com, and it'll bring you to a page asking for the event code. You can type in GVRD03. Or if you have a smartphone and you're looking at your laptop for Zoom, you can bring your camera app up to the screen where the QR code is at the top left corner of my screen. And it should bring up a pop-up for the web page. And in that case, you don't have to type in the event code.
So the question regarding the dimensions, oh, hey, Justin. Dimensions and depth of the competition pool. I think there's talk between making it like the minimum requirements for a competition pool. I forget if it was 8 lanes or 6. Gina, do you remember?
I think it's 6. It was 75 feet by 75 feet.
Okay.
And then the minimum depth is typically 7 feet. And that's the minimum.
And I know there was talk about making that also water polo, which would increase the depth and also the cost. So I don't know if that's still on the table. But anyway, that's an option.
And then there's a question, will the pool be 50 meters or 25 yards? And I believe that 75 by 75 is the 25-yard pool. I'm trying to see if Justin from Aquatic Design Group is on.
I haven't seen his name.
You don't see his name yet? Okay.
So it looks like the competition pool and the family space shaded areas are all liked by our participants tonight. And we'll have the same question next about anything that you would like to suggest for the space. So please save that for the next question.
We also have a comment that the pool needs to be 40 meters if you're going to include water polo as a use.
And I think that was also a concern too at the beginning, if it was going to be a water polo pool, that was going to drive the budget up and be more on the competition pool side for the whole site of 8.5 million, as opposed to the splash area or splash playground area. So I know that I would have to go back to the school district and say, okay, here's what we can get for 8.5 if it's a go. Would there be two phases? One phase would be the splash area, because that's been a huge requirement or a huge ask of a lot of the Vallejoans, but it's also, there's been a huge ask for another competition pool. So that's when we would really have to work with the school district if we won the grant to figure out, okay, what's the next step?
We also have a question about water slides.
I like them. You know, it'll be fun to design it, and I'm sure that's, you know, once they say yes, you got the grant, then, you know, kind of really, you know, as they say, get into the weeds and figure out some of the design concepts of what to include and what amenities. Yeah, I know that kids like slides and kids like swings on land, so I assume in water they're going to want water slides too.
There's a question, what about taking over the grass area and installing another synthetic multi-use field? I think that they might be referring to that area south of where we're showing the aquatics area. So kind of south of that dashed yellow line. That's the school district property, is that right, Gabe?
Correct. They basically just wanted us to do something with regarding aquatics. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to push the next question so we can jump onto that conversation. Is there anything that is missing from the concept plan, or if anything you would like to suggest for this site? Someone says more shade.
I'm wondering, is that maybe more shade in the spectator areas or also in the amenity itself, in the water feature?
Feel free to raise your hand and unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to start reading the poll answers. Bleacher seating, diving pool, concession building. I believe that's included, that could be included as part of the new building. Bleachers are near pool. Able to accommodate water polo. I would worry about security around the backside of the facility since it would be hard to see from the street and easy to sneak into. Consistent depth of competition lanes, shaded bleachers, bigger competition pool. I guess this is the question for Gabe. Wouldn't it be prudent to find out what the school district plans to do with the old structure before you proceed?
So they don't want to touch the old structure. So if we were going to demolish the old building, and which I think architecturally it's a really nice building, but right now they don't want to touch it.
I don't have a raise my hand button.
Frank, would you like to share a comment?
Oh, you heard me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was looking for raise my hand button so I could click on it and I couldn't find one. So anyway, yeah, so I'm the one that mentioned the shade. Seems like whenever I go to a pool, there's never enough shade. So that's why I commented shade. So anywhere shade that's near the pool, shade that's over the area where people hang out with their families, or even, and then I also made a comment about a concession stand too. I don't remember if that was included.
Yeah, we do have that listed as a use in the main building, but there could be some merit to looking at having it more integrated into the aquatics area as well.
Yeah. Yeah, as a kid, I always remember running to the concession stand to get my snacks.
Yeah. Very convenient when it's close by.
Yeah.
So the question regarding, or would high school's classes be using this during the day? Yes, because we would have an agreement with the school district.
There was a suggestion about first aid station and in the concession area, and the old building to be used as the laundry. Build it so it's regulation for water polo and swim meet competition.
You could throw in a load of laundry and then go swimming while you're waiting for your laundry. I like that.
Couple comments in the chat. FYI, if VCUSD allows GVRD to demolish the old Plunge building and pool, this allows for 170 by 130 feet of space for additional pools. Another comment, I would love to keep the old building to some capacity. It's beautiful and historic. 1946. Classroom space would be very useful for classes and camps that could generate a lot of revenue.
Yeah, I believe we've had that comment before, and I agree with that. Having camps there at the site would be great.
Use building for after school programming. Okay. Maybe I can pull up the Google Sheet and start writing. If anybody wants to kind of go into their answers.
We have another comment. Since the new Plunge will be an old baseball practice field, can you upgrade the baseball, softball fields on site? Oh, I'm sorry. I think I misread that. Since the new Plunge will be on an old baseball practice field, can you upgrade the baseball, softball fields on site?
That the school district, I believe, passed Measure S, so that would be up to them. Again, when we recently redone the plaster at Cunningham Pool and some other items, anyway, long story short, they just want us to do the pool there and aquatics at the Plunge area. Oh, was there another comment that just popped up?
What are the chances these grants get approved? Are these plans best case scenario, or do they risk being minimized by costs or budget constraints?
For both sides, I think our chances are pretty good. We check the box on quite a few aspects that the state is looking for. These plans have been a little scaled back. I think the plans for the Plunge are a much bigger ask, because a pool in itself is going to be around, I think just the pool and the buildings are going to probably hit, what, I wish Justin was here, 6 million, 7 million, and
Yeah,
the total,
last time.
yeah, and the total allotment is 8.5.
Yeah. So there's a question, how much do you get per site The most you can get is 8.5 million. But they can always award less as well. They can divide it up.
Yeah.
And it is a very competitive grant too.
Yep.
Will the pools be heated? Adding solar panel covered shade structures would be awesome, but those are two separate comments.
Oh, yeah, I think the intention is to heat the pools. In fact, regarding the solar panels, I have a picture of a pool site that I like that has solar panels for shade structures, and they do double purpose, and we're kind of looking into that for Cunningham Pool too.
Yeah, you definitely need it in foggy Vallejo.
Yeah, but those summers when you're watching your kids learn swimming, those bleachers that's a hot spot.
Oh yeah.
There's a raised hand, Brendan.
Sorry. Oh, go. Sorry.
No, my bad.
Okay. Well, I mean, so as somebody that has a lot of ties to the aquatics community in Vallejo, I guess I'd just step up and advocate that I don't think that pool is that competition pool is not big enough. And while I get the concept of the grant project in that, like, this is not geared towards building a competition level swimming facility, it's like a community-based grant program that's looking to check a lot of boxes. I think it will be underutilized if we don't make it bigger. I think it's going to miss a lot of opportunities in terms of water polo, and also, again, like being able to host events for the teams in the area. I mean, I coach Vallejo High School and for Vallejo Aquatic Club, and so to have another facility available, not just, I mean, including not just for us, but I mean, like, we have during water polo season, we're trying to host Vallejo Aquatic Club, St. Pat's, Benicia. Vallejo would love to have a team. It's been hit and miss in the past. Bethel very regularly fields a team. We're talking about 5 teams in one 50-meter competition facility. So to only add a 25-yard pool that assumedly has shallow end of the pool and really limits the capacity to have, I mean, it really even limits the capacity to have a swimming competition, because you can only dive, I mean, like 4 feet is the absolute minimum, and that's USA Swimming. You have to have like approval to have that diving depth. You really want deeper water for the full width of the pool. So, I mean, I understand like that this is like, there's parameters that we're trying to stay within, but I really have to advocate that I think that pool needs to be a 25-yard by 40-meter pool with more deep water.
I see a lot of comments coming in. The toddler area pool, will it be deep enough to teach swim?
Well, that we can add that as a comment, that is a desire to have toddler swimming lessons.
Mhm.
At this point, we haven't determined all the different uses for the pool. I think that they might be referring to the toddler feature in the family aquatics area that we talked about a little bit, and that would be completely separate from the pool and any lessons. But the competition pool would be deeper. And then there was a question about, will GVRD offer swimming lessons and water aerobics?
Yeah, we don't want to just have the pool sit empty. So if we can program a lot of activities there, we'd like to do that.
The existing design leaves a lot of money on the table for competitions and program revenue. Will one end be diving deep, a depth of 10 feet?
So if that is a desired program use, we'll take that note down.
Diving. And diving boards is the next comment. FYI, Cunningham Pool only allows people to dive into depths 8 feet and deeper. That makes sense. Having a smaller lesson geared pool that you could heat up during the winter, fall, and spring would expand the swim lesson opportunities.
So I think I'm hearing that that's advocating for a separate pool for lessons.
And I know we're building one. We're almost about to plaster it over at Cunningham, a smaller pool for youth swim lessons. But yeah, no, I like having all these comments.
Did we capture all of the comments? There's a question, what would be an acceptable size for the competition pool? There's different sizes. So we're showing 75 by 75. Brendan was suggesting 25-yard by 40-meter. There are 50-meter pools. So there's varieties of sizes. Oh, I see a raised hand. Brendan?
Yeah, sorry so I wanted to expand on my advocacy for 40 meters because it seems like an arbitrary length. A typical competition pool is 25 yards by 50 meters, which is the 50-meter length is a Olympic or international competition distance. It does significantly add construction cost and maintenance cost and upkeep costs and all of those things, water, chemicals, heating. So the reason, while it would be nice to have another 50-meter pool in Vallejo, to at least push the pool to 40 meters would allow for you to have a 30-meter cage to cage. It has to be the face of the cage course that's all deep and still allow to have shallow water in that facility. And I don't know, I know it's on school district property, but it's not sounding like a school district project. But I do know that the Ed Code of California requires that there's shallow water in a facility somewhere. So if you had a shallow pool that was swim lessons, you could not have shallow water at all in the competition pool. I don't know that that serves the community as well, but if you had a 40-meter pool that at least had 35 meters of deep water to accommodate a water polo course, then you could still have some shallow water at one end of it to accommodate lessons or people in the community that don't necessarily want to swim laps in a deep pool. So that is my advocacy for 40 meters by 25 yards.
Thanks for explaining that. That was helpful.
Yeah, no problem.
So I think what Brendan is also saying, Yuki, is that if you don't have a separate pool with shallow water, you have to incorporate some shallow water into your competition pool.
Yeah, if it's a project that is, I don't know where this falls.
Oh, for the district, for the school.
Yeah, because the school district has to follow ed code, which actually has something that says that you have to have like a teaching depth in a swim facility on a school campus. It might be a school campus, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I've worked for a pool at a school district and like been on board to like when they built another facility, and that was one of the things that always sort of dictates plans. Like, actually, your aquatic design guy probably knows specifically how that works, but yeah, that's a consideration.
We'll definitely talk to him about that. And then Leon had a comment. Brendan's idea would be good for a pool to replace the old Plunge. So I think that's advocating for a second pool in the existing pool location. Does anybody have any further comments? Right, when you're done typing, Yuki, if you want to send the sharing over. And I'll just put our last slide up on the screen with our contact information. Oops, right there. So if you'd like to add any additional comments or ask us any more questions, you can go to the GVRD website, or you can email this address, publicforum@gvrd.org. So if you think of something later that you'd like to add. We'll just hang out for a couple more minutes in case anybody else has anything they'd like to share. But thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate your input, and we'll be looking at all of this in greater detail as we wrap up our grant application.
Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Justin?
Oh, yeah, okay, good. I wasn't sure if my audio was working. I just wanted to piggyback kind of on what Brandon was saying about the different dimensions of the pool usage and how, you know, it's really hard to design pools that accommodate every possible user group and still keep it within a budget. But I think that's kind of what Brandon was trying to get at because of all the different pools that he's operated in the past and from what I've seen running pools in Vallejo in the past. Any pool that's built typically is built based on the budget rather than on what kind of revenue it can make on the back end on a year-to-year basis. And so if you're able to incorporate those kinds of features that Brandon was talking about, it has a much better potential of being a self-sustaining pool as far as, you know, revenue going forward. So some of those features would be awesome to incorporate so that it can make that revenue and not need to be subsidized as much as typical public pools. But it's like the magic bullet theory of making a pool that fits all those parameters. It's a lot of things to balance.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin.
There was a question about when will we know when the grant will be awarded?
On the last round, it took them quite a while to get back to people. They, I think they were like 3 months past the date that they promised. So I think it's going to be a while, at least several months that we'll be waiting. So I would guess sometime around summer. Do you have any input on that, Gabe?
I was in a Prop 68 meeting yesterday. and they were saying, you know, not early summer, but they said summer, so that might mean fall. We'll find out, because everybody now we've been ahead of the curve with all the grants that we're pursuing. Some people, and Gina, you've mentioned one city, and I know a few others that are just starting the process now. We were lucky to have the 10-year master plan outreach to dovetail into information, participatory budgeting, where people gave input on Parks and Rec. So we have quite a bit of data compared to a lot of other places. So that increases our odds, and hopefully we hear, you know, in the summer and not in the fall.
There's another question about if there will be another public meeting.
I believe this is the last of this series. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gabe.
Yeah, I believe so. But you know what? We will keep the website going at GVRD, so people can still provide comments and suggestions. So yeah, I think, but we'll also put I hate to say deadline, but deadline, because we do have to put the application in as well. So we were going to do some more outreach of you know, newspaper ads and next door, and some you know, online kind of pushing to get people to at least give us more feedback before we kind of cut it off, and then we have to submit to the state.
Somebody asked for some context for Vic Wallace, with Leon in the comment there. Vic Wallace ran the Plunge for about 40 years, something like that. It was a very significant period of time, but he was a fixture there. He just retired about a year ago.
I see.
And I think the naming rights will have to be with the school district too. So that would be a nice, I think that would be a nice tip of the hat to whether GVRD fixes it or the school district do that.
Ironically, phenomenal basketball coach at Vallejo High for many, many years, but you know, we love him as our pool manager. So.
All right. Well, if there are no further comments, thank you again for giving us all of your feedback, and please feel free, like Gabe said, to give us more. We'll be having the link up on the website, and I think we'll be posting this survey as well. That's what we did on the last round, wasn't it, Yuki? So you can take the same survey or tell your friends and neighbors about it so that they can take it as well and give us, so we can get as much feedback as possible. All right. Well, everybody have a good evening. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.